This is Be The Giraffe with Chris Jarvis. It's time to evolve and elevate. Welcome back. We are here with Ramon Peralta of Peralta Design. He is a branding expert, and as you're soon going to find out, or you know from the previous segment, a little bit of a magician. So a little abracadabra took place. He spent years with Jay Walker at Walker Digital. They were starting brands and working things up for investors and customers all the time, as you called it, vaporware. And you were hustling and doing anything you could to make things work. Like a lot of people who are in corporate America working for somebody else, situation changes. It's outside your control.
Yeah.
And you have to figure something out. And you had this client who was, from a distance. I know my first company, we wrote books for doctors and we sold them to doctors all over the country. And we would, purposely try to do things to make our voices a little scratchier and be a little older because we were in our 20s and, in our late 20s, and we wanted people to think we were in our 40s. And, they didn't have any voice modulators or anything back then. So I know the feeling for sure. And then we'd meet people and they're like, "Where's your dad?" Like, well, he's not coming. So just so you know, this is all you're going to get. But so you had a big client. Yep. And take us from there. So you get a big client from Dallas who wants to see you.
Yep.
And where were you? What was going on? And what was going through your head?
Yeah.
For all of this?
I mean, so this place that I leased for 6 months, it's really just meant to move in and move out. But I wanted to give this gentleman, this client, the impression that this was my agency, and I knew exactly how I was going to walk him through. I practiced his name and my name with the receptionist. I wanted this to be flawless. And I remember I brought in some tchotchkes. I set up my computer. I had an iLugger. I don't even know if they sell those anymore, but it was like a rolling luggage that you put your iMac in. And I set up my office and waited all day for this gentleman to arrive. And at 5:30 p.m., he called me. And he said, "Hey, I'm still here with Jay in Stanford. I gotta fly out of JFK. I'm not gonna make it up, but maybe next time." And I never physically met him, and I couldn't get out of this contract. I won't mention the firm, but they're very difficult to get out of contract. So here I was with this 6-month contract. And what I would do going forward was any time that I had a meeting with a client, I would look on my calendar and pretend like I was full and say, I could meet you Wednesday. And that was the day that I would go into the office. And so it just gave me that feeling of the feeling of getting dressed, of putting a jacket on, of going to this corporate building, of going in the elevator, making a cappuccino, at the cappuccino machine, all of it, which wasn't really mine, but it gave me the feeling that I could pull this off, that perhaps I could pull off this concept of owning my own creative agency. And life has a funny way of positioning you for these opportunities, and I'm a man of faith, and I will share that when I got let go, I remember, one of the things my wife said was like, after all you've done for them, this is how they treat you, this is how they do you. And I think for a long time, I held on to the idea that my boss I was going to help my boss win big, and then he was going to sprinkle something on me. And that was the extent of my dream. It wasn't in my own hands. And I don't think it's a coincidence, but a year before I lost my job, I became sober. I used to drink heavily. It was something that was affecting my relationships. And a year before the layoff, I started, attending meetings, and I became sober. My last drink was November 15, 2007. And so I was prepared in the practice of prayer and meditation, so that when I got laid off and I got called into the office to be told that, your services are no longer needed, I was very serene. I remember saying the Serenity prayer in my head as I was hearing the news that I was losing my job. And then as I kept trying to find jobs and wasn't getting them, I remember saying, one of the steps is like you have to give up your fear of financial insecurity, and I had to let that go. I said, God, if I'm supposed to sell this house, I'll sell it. If I have to sell my cars, I'll sell them. I'm trusting, and for some of our viewers, it might be trusting the universe, but you basically have to trust that you don't know better than the universe does. You know, it was one of those situations where I'm just going to see how this plays out. And I'm going to do the best I can every day. And it gave me the momentum and the confidence and the faith to say, well, maybe if I look at it as like, not as a negative that I can't find a job, but maybe I can't find a job because I'm supposed to start a business. And that gave me kind of the motivation to start looking for my first employee, get better office space, you know, and grow the business as I have over the last 17 years to, you know, 10 people and 3,000 square feet, 2 offices. And you've experienced our growth, Chris. You've been a big part of it, and a great client for us.
Oh, thanks. And it's been a pleasure to work with you, and it's been a pleasure to watch at the same time. I want to go a little deeper into something. You remember Owen Samarone, who used to work for me, and you guys worked together on a lot of projects with me, for me, so on and so forth. And I can remember him asking me when he was 25 and I was 50. I can remember Owen asking me, "What would you do differently?
Yeah.
If you could go back to being my age, what would you do differently?" Now I've had personal challenges. I've had business challenges. I've had multiple lawsuits. I've been kicked out of companies I started. I've sold a company and then had to chase people for years in federal court to try to get my money. I mean, I've had plenty of challenges. And I guess, what was that Mother Teresa saying was, God only gives you the challenges you know you can handle.
That's right.
And then she said, I wish you didn't have so much faith in me.
Yeah.
And, but when no one asked me that question of what would you not do, what would you do differently? And for the people who maybe are sitting on some hard times or things aren't going the way they want, I looked back at all the things that went wrong. Mm-hmm. Failed relationships, failed marriage, failed businesses, failed, lots of things, health challenges, you name it. I thought about which piece of advice I would give Owen, but because I was far enough beyond all of those things, it wasn't that I forgot the pain, but rather that I already saw how that lesson helped me in the future. Mm-hmm. And so, like, you getting lost, whether it was with alcohol or losing your, that situation, which nobody would want that. You can't say it's a blessing, but it learned, it brought you into faith. It brought you into serenity. It brought you into meditation. It brought you into taking personal responsibility. And I think for me, I can already tell the things that cause problems for me at some point. For anybody who's watching, who's in a tough spot, the lessons you're learning now are the things that are going to help you in the future. There is a plan.
Right.
And I mean, I know that's the case for me, and now you're sharing that. And I think that's important for people watching who may be questioning why something, whether it's economic, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, psychological, whatever it is, these are all things that, we don't know what the plan is for us, and you're never really going to know. It can feel right, but at the end of the day, whatever's making the plan is beyond our understanding. So trusting that there's a lesson to be learned, and when you're going through something, just keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. I think every test I've gone through has turned into a testimony, but there are lessons that I've learned that help me get into that next level. The lessons that I've learned in sobriety, for example, have helped me become a better leader, less selfish, really question what my motivation is before I make major decisions, more empathetic. It's all of these things that have made me a better person. Translates into, if you can be a better person, you're going to be a better leader. If you're a better leader, you're going to be a better husband, better businessman. The right people are going to come into your life. You're going to stay away from the wrong type of deals and opportunities, and you'll manifest or attract the better ones. It's all about alignment. And I found that being true to yourself, staying on the right path, following, the journey, and trusting that you're on the right track, the universe starts opening doors for you. The right people come in, the right deals come in. And it's just proven to be true. And now I'm at a point where I'm paying it forward, continuing to pay it forward and inspiring others. As you know, you've inspired me to become a public speaker. So now I'm not only speaking about launching brands and starting businesses, but also how to build cultures of retention and recruitment. One of the things I hear from the business community is it's hard to find good people, and nobody wants to work. And it's like I told them at my last speech at Mohegan Sun, I said, no, but young people want to have families and buy homes and travel and drive nice cars, so they want to work. They just don't want to work for you. So it's like all of these things have made me a better person, right? All the challenges that I've gone through, I've made, realizing that, like, okay, what are all these work environments? I mentioned the toxic work environment. Even those environments teach you, like, this is not the type of place I want to create for my employees or my team, right? So you learn, even from the worst bosses, you learn. You learn how not to treat people. How did that make you feel? Do you want other people to feel that way, or vice versa? If it made you feel great, what was it about it that made you feel good and encouraged you and motivated you to stay late? Was it always that extra bonus or that extra paycheck, or did you believe there was something greater or some greater mission that you were a part of? And I think as people, we all want to feel like we're part of something greater. We're making a difference, as you put it.
Yeah, I love that. And when we come back after the break, Ramon's going to talk about this Zen-like attitude and how he's looked very introspectively, or been very introspective and honest with himself to help build a culture that, that's really attractive for other people to work, and it's a great place to be a client, and it's really great stuff. And so our modern day Abraham Lincoln, I learned something from every man. Sometimes I learn what not to say or how not to act, but at least I learned something. Come back after the break, and you're going to learn something else from our man, Ramon Peralta. We'll see you after the break. Be bold, be curious, but most importantly, be patient. We'll be right back with more Be The Giraffe.